this is here and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Clockwork Chronicles, Redstone Infestation, another continuation of Season Clockwork and Hermit Outcry. If you've read those, then yeah. We are in chapter 9. We're on part 5, but I don't know how far this chapter's gonna be, so yeah. We're gonna have to see that for ourselves. I still got me cough. And yeah. In fact, I actually do want to cough because I had some medicine for some mucus stuck in my throat, so that was fun. Dealing with a lot this weekend. No. Anyway, let's get on to this. Chapter 9. Green's eyes snapped open as he heard a loud thud from downstairs as he sat up in bed, partially startled, jolted awake, as the sun only barely started to appear on the horizon. What was going on downstairs? What could possibly be happening to result in something like that? The noise came again as he realized it was more of a pounding on the front entrance than it was the sound of something connecting with another thing. The wall? The floor? He wasn't sure. The hermit climbed out of bed as he heard a door open and close faintly down the hallway toward the stairs. As he went over to the door and opened it, he peeked outside of his room just in time to see Blake disappearing down the stairs, seeming to have been startled awake as well. He stepped out of his room and quietly closed the door behind him as he heard voices downstairs, the front door opening to reveal whoever had been demanding some attention earlier. The hermit quietly walked over to the railing that opened down to the hallway as he noticed one or two men standing just outside the door, along with a third that had walked inside. His boots were a tad muddy, getting all over the doormat as the hermit listened to the conversation. No one seemed to notice he was eavesdropping yet, nor did he want them to. I know this isn't a great time, but I wanted to make it clear about what happened. The man in the base said matter-of-factly, "You told us late last night that leadership changed because Devin was unfortunately taken out by one of Mr. A's men, correct?" "Yes, sir," Blake nodded, simply. "He was shot down trying to protect one of the hermits. Impulse and I did the best we could to save him, but it wasn't enough. So you decided you wanted to take charge and make all the rules?" One of the men behind the door sneered. Matthias decided that while he was away, I would take control of ensuring the hermits were safe, especially Scar, who no longer has a protector for the moment, Blake stated calmly. "Matthias is working on finding a temporary solution for that problem by bringing over one of your inexperienced friends. School friends." Another man laughed abruptly. "Yeah, that's not going to cause any problems, now would it? What authority do you have to go around and order us what to do?" "All I asked was that you keep tabs on what's going on in the area," Blake said blandly. "Nothing's changed from your order, apart from it coming from a kid," the second man grumbled. "My orders are through Matthias, who takes order from Rose," Blake said defiantly, hitting his chin as he added, "As should you, as she has the final say. She'd never put a child in charge of protecting a YouTuber," the third man scoffed. "She did, actually," Blake pointed out. Graham bit back and chuckled, knowing somewhat of what the boy was referring to. He'd heard the stories from his friends in this village, especially Nettie, when she told him about Sam, a 17-year-old boy at the time, who had taken charge of protecting her brother. She didn't have much of a choice then. Besides, you were never sent here by her, now were you? The second man snapped, changing the topic as he had. "This is a different situation. You're clearly not fit to take charge of protecting these hermits on your own." "You forget I'm not on my own," Blake offered. "Caden and Beat and Seskar are here to help me force whatever I need to." "But they're willing to listen to you," the third man taunted. "Well, their charges are here, so they don't have too much of a choice," the first man sighed with a cold smile. "I think you need to be put in your place, kid. Let the adults handle the rest." You know very well that having all of these hermits in one place is never a good idea. You've put a big target on their backs. What do you suggest we do then? Blake asked, said wearily, as he took a step back. Grant swallowed as he heard a door down the hall open. He looked over, seeing a sleepy Impulse walk out of the room into the hall with him. It didn't appear that the hermit slept very well. Green didn't blame him. His best friend was in danger, and his friend was helpless to do anything about it. What's going on? Impulse mumbled as he walked over to his friend. I think we're seeing a little bit of that resistance you spoke about last night, Green pointed out nonchalantly as he gestured to the group. Who would have guessed? The second they have a chance, they backstab us again. Impulse chuckled nervously as one of the men looked up, finally spotting the hermits onlooking the conversation below. Hey, what are you two doing up there? This is a private conversation. The better I say it, I can even run it in her Heidi's. I mean, it would be private if we could hear you arguing from up here. Green shrugged as he grabbed the railing. Taking a step on one of the stairs. If you wanted privacy, you should have moved to a different, more secluded room. You have no idea who could hear you. That's true, the first man nodded, while the hermit paused. Noticing the man's thoughtful expression as unease filled the hermit, Green glanced over at Impulse warily, as the other hermit frowned as well. Maybe we should discuss somewhere downstairs in the tunnels, Blake. How did that sound? Very well. There is a room down too far from here. Blake nodded, looking over at the hermits, giving him a subtle shake of his head. Should we call Rose? Matthias? Impulse whispered nervously into Green's ear from above, still waiting for the hermit to move. I don't think there's a need for that. The first man spoke simply as he gestured for the other two men. His base is under lockdown until I get back. Yes, sir. Second man nodded, and a small, mischievous smile curled onto his face. We need to go, Green stated firmly as he jumped back up to the second floor and pulled Impulse out of view. What about beat-ups and Scar? Impulse asked quickly, his eyes wide with surprise. We can alert them and yell out through the windows, Green said, glancing over the stairs as he heard a trap door open and close, before hearing the sound of one of the stairs creaking. What, are you two afraid we're gonna hurt you? The third man teased from the bottom of the stairs. It's not like you haven't done that before, Green shouted back over his shoulder. He whipped his head back to Impulse as he said quickly, Get beat-ups, I'll get Scar. Let's meet up to someone else's base. Tangos? Or we can hide out at Jim's? Impulse offered. We have better luck with Tyler than on our own. Green shook his head. So that's a good backup plan. Got it. Impulse smiled as he dashed down the hall as Green followed him. Seeing one of the doors open a crack, he opened it, seeing Scar still sound asleep, as he went over to his friend, gently shaking him awake, as he heard footsteps grow louder and faster. He didn't have much time. Scar finally groaned after Green shook him a little harder as the hermit opened his eyes, startled awake fully as one of the men burst into his room. Where do you think you're going, Green? The man said curiously, slowly, as Green urged his friend out of the bed wearily. What's going on? The other hermit asked to his confusion. What is that man doing here? I don't know, but we can't stay. It's not safe, Green said quickly. They want to separate us. Blake's been taken down to the tunnel system. You won't need to worry about him anymore, the man said as he lunged toward the hermit as Scar yelped in fright as Green pulled him away, going over to the window as he opened it. Scar donning on his elytra over his shoulder as he took a step out of the window. The hermit looked back as the man groaned. Getting up as he ran into the chair that Green had haphazardly kicked his way. We've already captured your other friends. There's no point in running. Go, Scar! Make sure someone tells Rose what's going on, Green shouted, and he shoved his friend out of the window as he leaped out as well. The hermit watched him as he screamed before the other hermit regained his composure. launching off into the sky as Green followed, just as he felt an integral shatter against him. Had a glass sound effect filled his ears once more. Arms wrapped around him, prohibiting his wings from keeping him afloat as he plummeted to the earth, crying out as the ground rushed up to meet him, as the man threw another pearl, having them both land on the ground safely. "Grian!" Scar called from above, as Grian looked up, seeing him stop for a moment, as he saw his friend had been grabbed out of the sky. "I'll be fine, just go!" Grian exclaimed, as the man slammed him against the wall. The hermit saw stars in his vision, hearing the rockets fade, followed by another set, before he heard nothing more. Looking over his shoulder, as the man bound his arms behind him. "Such a valiant effort, Grian," the man mused. "Once Mr. A is done with you, that won't probably be the next on the list." "Why?" Grian asked, flinching as the man kicked him in the shin. "It would certainly hurt if there was an accident, wouldn't it?" the man mused. "Don't deny it, you know it's true." "You won't get away with this," Grian said firmly, narrowing his eyes as he said it. "Who's going to protect him? His protector is gone, and the backup crew is useless. And the kid Blake wanted to hire probably wouldn't be any good," Min snickered. "Tyler would," Grian said confidently, "but if he had an impossible choice to make." The man pressed. "What would he choose?" An unsettling feeling filled him. Before he shook his head. "You're trying to get under my skin to scare me. It's not going to work." "You wouldn't be so confident if you knew what Mr. A wanted to do with him." The man smirked as he pulled something out of his pocket. "Now, why don't you hold still for me? We can't have you screaming for help that won't come, don't we?" "Something tells me that's not why you want to get me," Green said blandly, but it did give him a spark of hope. Maybe not all of the backup crew were corrupted or misled. Not that it would matter for him, hopefully. Whatever Mr. A wanted could be thwarted, especially if B-Dubs and whoever was helping him was getting close. The hermit struggled a little when it came to trying to resist the cloth, but he knew it was no use. He'd be going wherever those men wanted him to. These men. He just hoped that help would come, and that his friends had been able to escape safely and find people who could keep them protected. It was the most he could do in this kind of situation, knowing that if the men succeeded, it meant everything he knew and cared about would be in jeopardy. Not that it would be the end, though. Oh, no. This war was far from over. Of course I said that. You guys want resistance? I give you resistance. Chapter 10. Graham looked ahead as he saw the building that they were approaching. His arms were bound behind him as he was pushed forward by one of Mr. A's men. He had been handed off to one of Mr. A's men after the defective backup crew had met up with them, handing over the two hermits they'd managed to catch, probably to try to go after Scar and B-Dubs. As far as he was aware, both B-Dubs and Scar had managed to escape the situation, as an uneasy feeling filled him. What was the man planning to do with Blake? Why had the boy agreed to this? Surely there was risk. Perhaps he had no way of knowing the men would have immediately gone after the hermits. After all, he'd been the only one standing in the men's way of getting to them, other than Kaden and B-Dubs' escort, who'd probably been outside. He hoped Scar and B-Dubs managed to find them and get to safety. What is this place? A voice whispered from just behind him as he looked over, seeing Impulse being escorted by another one of Mr. A's men. Arms still tied as the two of them approached the door. Both he and Impulse had been relieved of their gags after the trade-off, most likely since they were far enough away that no one would hear them. Standing there were two soldiers who were waiting for them. They both were tall, with a strong build, their eyes watching the group intently as if they'd been expecting them. "Took you long enough," one of them grunted. "Mr. A was expecting them earlier this morning." "Sorry," one of the men retorted. but we had to deal with a few persistent protectors, and the backup crew was having trouble. Well, you're here now, the soldier shrugged. No one's followed you? No, sir, the guard said curtly. Would you like to take these two to their cells? Or is Mr. A here? He is not at the moment, the second soldier frowned. The chest room is just inside. First door to the left. Make sure the prisoners don't talk amongst themselves. Got it, the second guard replied. As the door opened and Green was pushed forward, he looked over his shoulder again as he met his friend's eyes. Bit his bottom lip, he was shoved into the building and taken to the chest room first. Make sure you get everything, the man holding Impulse reported, matter-of-factly. We can't risk them ruining the plan. What plan exactly? Where did you take us? Impulse demanded, and a gray of felt pockets being... That's wrong. That's the wrong one. Emptied. As the man holding him shoved him against the wall. Okay, really. Stay put. It'll be easier for you that way. The guard muttered, ignoring the other hermit as Green felt the man prodding through his pockets, taking out anything he could find, and tossing them into a nearby chest, randomly. He didn't seem to care where he put it. As the hermit looked up at dozens upon dozens. He looked up at dozens upon dozens of chests, full to the brim with weapons, armor, communicators, tools, and even a few random blocks of dirt. No chance. This place doesn't look very big for a headquarters, honestly, Green admitted, after a few long, painful moments of seeing everything being tossed so carelessly away. He had overheard the men earlier talking about where they were being taken to. Some sort of headquarters, though he wasn't sure what or why. There are more floors, Hermit, the man scoffed as he was pulled from the wall. Impulse was pushed into the room as well. Luckily for you, Mr. A has more important matters than to deal with your unceremonious rebellion. It's not my fault he wants to kill me and my friends, Green replied bitterly. Are there more people here than just us? Impulse asked, as he grunted. Shoved to the wall as well. I suggest you stop talking, the man pinning him down commanded. It's headquarters for Rickman. We need all the YouTubers we can get. For what? Experiments? Green asked quickly. Like with the Redstone virus? I'd more call it an infestation, the man chuckled. You won't be going into that floor, luckily. Not for a while. So as long as you behave. So long as you behave, of course. What other floors are there? Impulse pressed. His grid was pulled toward the other side of the room to the door. Why would we tell you that? The second man snapped. You have no reason to know. He turned to the man holding Grant as he added firmly. And you shouldn't be encouraging it. Sorry, sir, the soldier said weakly. You should be, the man replied sourly as he tossed something into one of the chests. Something smashed. Grant noticed Impulse winced. He lifted his head to look at it. Take Grant to the main floor cells. This one's going to the third floor. Mr. A wants to see him eventually. For what? Grant demanded, trying to pull from the man's grip on him. Why are you even doing this? Doesn't he care about what might be happening with his brother, Gerald? Sigmund smirked as he shrugged. All's going to plan. Don't worry. Take him away. Make sure he doesn't try to escape either. He won't, sir, the first man said quickly as he took Grant out of the room, as the hermit struggled a little more, finding the motion almost pointless. So you're going to chain me up like last time? Grant asked the man after they went around a corner down the hallway, seeing a line of cells. Why would I do that? The soldier replied, almost sounding surprised at the hermit's statement. Then he glanced forward, seeing the hallway ahead of him. The walls were fairly plain, with no hint of detail, flat and boring, just like everything else so far in the building. Most of the doors were closed and locked firmly. He could hear He could hear the faint sound of snoring, or what he could presume as rocks hitting the stone walls. A few eyes were peeking through as they watched them pass. Hermit looked down at his feet, still feeling their prying eyes on him. He couldn't ignore it. The man stopped somewhere in the middle of the immensely long hallway. The hermit barely noticing he'd gone down a flight of stairs, no longer seeing the sunlight through the windows. "I thought I was going to the first floor," Green pointed out. "You are," the soldier said calmly. "Which is technically counted as one floor because there's so many of you." "How many of us are there?" "Are there?" Green asked slowly. The man didn't answer. Instead, he opened the empty cell and unbound the hermit's hands, shoving him inside as the door slammed shut. The hermit scrambled to his feet as he ran to the door, seeing the man turn and walk away, his back facing him. Green bit back and shout, feeling it wasn't worth the effort as he shook his head. "There's at least 30 of us in this one floor. Not sure about the other floors," a small voice said nearby as the hermit looked up, peering through the window, unable to see who was in it. "Why so many?" Green asked quietly, following the small whisper. "For whatever experiments they might want to do next," another voice piped in as they laughed nervously. "When their first victims get eliminated, they need more. That's where we come in." "That doesn't seem to be the plan for me," Green admitted hesitantly as he stood by the door warily. "I'm sure Mr. A has something in store for you," a third voice replied. "He always does. Always up to something." "What about RJ and Gerald?" Green asked quickly. "What about them?" the second voice said casually. "They're probably off doing some stupid plan of theirs to cause people like us a great big headache." "They aren't," Green pointed out, before stopping himself. An easy realization hit him. "You guys don't know, do you?" "We've been down here for a while," the first voice said quietly. "We don't know much about what's going on out there, or if people are looking for us." "How long has it been?" Green asked nervously. "Surely people are looking for you." "Not always," the third voice said blandly. "Some of us have no one left. Mr. A has taken everything." "Someone's looking for you," Green said, a little more confidently. "I'm sure they'll find us." Who's left out there?" Second voice scoffed. "We're on our own now. If we want to get out of here, we have to do it ourselves." "Then why haven't you tried?" Green pressed. "The last time someone did, they were taken down to the last floor," the first voice said sadly. "About 10 or so escapees, never to be seen again. Those men have no tolerance." "We'll find a way. We have to," Green said openly, glancing out into the hallway, not seeing any sign of Mr. A's men. "There are communicators still in the chest room. They never got rid of those. We just need to find one and use it to call Rose or someone connected to her." "You gonna volunteer?" "You seem willing," the second voice teased, "willing to get yourself killed." "Hush now, he's new here," the third voice replied. "He'll get used to this eventually. Give him some grace." "No, I won't be, and you don't have to be," Green said firmly, grabbing onto the bars of the door as he leaned in. "We're getting out." "That's just wishful thinking," the second voice groaned. A moment of silence passed before... "Wrong pronoun," they added, a little more gently. "Yeah, I am physically changing it in front of your eyes," their voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe if you want a chance, you should stop broadcasting it for them to hear." Green swallowed and nodded, hearing the sound of scuffling as the prisoners left the doors. As the hermit stepped back, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath, clearing his mind as he tried to focus, to think. Somehow, there had to be a way to get out of this mess, that they all could. These men couldn't keep getting away with this. Not forever. Chapter 11. I'm going for it. Green leaned against the wall of the cell, feeling the cold cobblestone as he stared at the door. There hadn't been much commotion since he'd arrived here, as the lights in the hallway flickered, ever so slightly, as he stifled back a yawn. He wasn't entirely sure what he was going to do, or how he was be able to escape. But anything was better than nothing. He hadn't been able to talk with the other prisoners about what was going on, or what the other floors were. No one wanted to talk, especially not when any of Mr. A's men came by. He'd been even told to stop talking at least twice already. Finally, he could hear another round of footsteps coming down the hall, breaking the strange silence that had filled the area. The footsteps stopped every now and again, probably to check on the prisoners. As the footsteps drew closer, the owner of those very footsteps at last appeared as a shadow of one of the guards stretched through the tiny window. The man didn't seem as big as the other men he'd seen, maybe younger than most of them. He wondered if this guard was some sort of intern for whatever version of school Mr. A had. Was that even a thing? Why was that something he'd even assume? He chuckled nervously as the man pushed the door open. What are you laughing at? The soldier asked. Something wrong? No. Green shrugged as he stepped from the wall. Just thinking. What brings you here? You seem awfully friendly, the young man replied wearily. I just came with something for you to eat. Mr. A asked that you'd have it first, before everyone else, seeing as you're new here. Julian watched as the young man put down a sugar box, stepping out of the way of the door as he opened it, pulling out a bowl of soup as he smiled. Only wanted the best for you for your first time here. Is that the same treatment for everyone? Green asked, plastering a smile as he walked toward the man, inching over ever so slightly to the door. You all know what's going to happen. Yep, everyone gets it on their first day, as a welcome home gift, seeing as no one ever gets out of here alive. The young man giggled. Well, for YouTuber, that is. Right, Green said slowly. He looked up at the young man up and down. Do you happen to know where the restroom might be? Why do you... The man started, but Green didn't let him finish as he bolted through the open door, running down the hall as the soldier called back at him. Get back here! The soldier shouted in frustration. Oh man, the one time I forgot to bring my communicator. That sounds like more of a you problem. Green hollered back, looking back to see that the young man was chasing down the hermit. I had it. He rounded the corner as he spotted the storage room, dashing inside as he opened one of the random chests, rifling through it as he heard a pair of footsteps catching up to him. He pushed back some junk as he spotted what he was looking for, grabbing the communicator hastily as he pocketed it, pulling out an almost damaged blade as he turned around just as the man caught up with him, panting. What do you think you plan to do with that? The soldier asked as he leaned forward, hands on his legs, as he looked up at the hermit, who looked down at him, clearly stopping you from calling back up. Obviously, agreed said matter-of-factly. What do you want? I'm only new here. It's my first week, the young man replied. Kate smiled sadly, lowering his blade. Well, they shouldn't have sent you to me if they didn't want me to escape. Clearly, the young man laughed as he shook his head, the humor vanishing as he pulled out his own sword. Lower your weapon, and I won't let Mr. A know of this. Do you think I care about him? You wouldn't be surprised. Green shrugged casually. Besides, it's only fair I'd ask you to step aside and let me cause a little chaos, no? I can easily call for the guards patrolling outside, the man warned. You can handle me yourself, on your own, Green asked as he raised an eyebrow. The man narrowed his eyes at his jaw. I warned you, the man said simply as he charged at the hermit with a sword raised as Green ducked out of the way and sprinted past him. Hey! Come catch me if you can! Green hollered back as he heard the front entrance doors open, as he glanced over his shoulder, seeing two of Mr. A's men stepping into the hallway. What is the meaning of this? One of the men snapped. Green bolted for the end of the hallway, daring not to look back at the ear shouts of alarm. Now you run, you coward! The young man yelled, his voice barely audible as the hermit made it to the stairs, charging down 2 flights with with feet pummeling down after him. He arrived at the third floor as he stumbled into the hall, glancing back nervously as he heard footsteps still getting louder. "Are you lost?" a voice asked, as the hermit whirled his head around, seeing a pair of glowing blue eyes through a cell window, the only thing he could see behind the helmet the man wore. "No, I'm currently in the process of a rescue mission," Green said quickly. "Do you happen to know where Impulse was taken to? Is he your friend? He is just over that way." The man pointed down the hall. "You seem to be in pursuit. Why don't you let me out and give me the sword?" "This?" Green asked, holding up the blade in his hand. "Yeah, what else am I going to use? A fist?" the man asked, a little more hastily this time. "You could make it work," Green shrugged, as he quickly unlocked the door with a lever beside. As the door swung open, the man stepped out, in full armor, as Green looked at him over down. "Go ahead and get the sword. Whatever you do, be careful," Green pressed. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of this." "No one will. Now go. I'll buy you some time," the man insisted, as they pushed the hermit down the hall with free hand. Green said nothing as he heard the men finally arrive, as the man behind him bellowed, introducing himself. "Impulse!" "Oh, I messed up. Impulse?" Green called out, hoping his friend could hear him. What were the chances the men had really taken him down here? What if Mr. A had stopped by and decided to move him? His worries dissipated as he heard his name being called. "Over here!" Impulse's voice called, as Green located where his friend was as he saw his friend's face, grinning at the cell door. Through the cell door, as the hermit opened it. He tackled his friend into a hug, trying his best to keep himself together. "You're okay," Green said happily, as he stepped back, finally pulling away. "I was worried they might have taken you somewhere else." "Not yet," Impulse chuckled as he stepped out of the cell. "Mr. A still isn't here, from what I know." "Okay," Green nodded as he looked back over at the stairwell, seeing that the armored man had managed to free a few other prisoners who were giving the guards a hard time. "We need to get out of here." "Not without helping everyone else," Impulse insisted quietly. "There's so many of them who haven't seen sunlight in months. We can't leave them here." "Do you even know how many of us are down here?" Green asked, in a hushed whisper, glancing back at the stairwell as he noticed the armored man was no longer alone, having freed a couple of other prisoners, who were also locked out here to hold back the men. "Well, they seem to want to help us." Green Impulse gestured as he sighed. "A lot of these people have been down here for a while, moved from cell to cell. You can't just leave them here." "So let's not," Green said calmly, pulling out the communicator. He just dashed in his pocket as he gestured for his friend to follow him down the hall, away from the commotion behind them. "You do realize that there's only one way out, right?" Impulse asked warily as he followed his friend. "I didn't even get one of those anyway." "Stop by the chest room and found one," Green shrugged as he handed it to him. The hermit took it, fiddled with it a little bit before smiling, showing the hermit's screen. Sure enough, there was a signal showing where they were on a map. Don't worry. "Hopefully someone sees it," Green admitted, calmly as Impulse quickly pocketed the device, as they turned back to the commotion just as more men were coming from the staircase, and the YouTubers were forced to retreat. The two freed YouTubers raised their hands in surrender when the men commanded they do so. The armored individual, however, stood his ground. "Lower your weapon and raise your hands where we can see them," one of the men said as Green was pulled further down the hall. I'm the furious destroyer, and I will not stand down," the armored man said defiantly. "You can't keep me or my fellow YouTubers down and think you can't stop us." Green swallowed as he looked over at Impulse, whispering in a high-pitched tone, his voice almost cracking at the ass. "What have I done?" Suit yourself, one of the soldiers said as he fired a crossbow with the firework. The YouTuber went flying backward, hitting the wall hard as he gasped in pain. The sword scattered from the man's hand as Green watched the other two YouTubers step aside, not daring to intervene to help their fellow man as he finally got to his feet before he was tackled to the ground. Get off me! The man insisted as Green watched two men charging toward them, having nothing to defend himself or his friend. Wait! We won't do anything, Green said quickly as he lifted his hand to surrender. What are you doing? Impulse hissed. He too reluctantly raised his hands in surrender. Trust me, Green said softly as the men cut off with them. You are in big trouble, encouraging prisoners like that. The first man sneered, holding up a bow and knocking an arrow. You're going to the last floor, both of you. But Impulse did nothing wrong. It was all me, Green said simply. Mr. A's orders. Neither of you can be trusted. The man replied firmly as the hermit swallowed, looking over to his friend nervously. I hope you know what you're doing, Impulse whispered, his eyes meeting his. Me too, Green nodded, walking forward as the man urged the two to the stairway as the other man took the prisoners and returned them to their cells. All he had left was hope. Hope that the men wouldn't check their pockets. Hope that Impulse had managed to call for help. Hope that help was coming. Only time would tell. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Never that might be. Goodbye.